That's a little more reasonable, don't you think? All right, so let's set this. So I'll set my highlight color sampler, I'll set my gray, I'll set my shadow. Go to my curves, go to my red channel, and actually this is very neutral to begin with, very, very neutral. So 230, 229, 230. The two closest are 230, so we'll make the green match the 230. So we'll go to green and just click here and just add 1 point of green, 229 to 230. Boom. And then we will go to our midtone, and we're at 73, 70, 75. The two closest are 73 and 75. The average between them is 74. So we will actually click here and change the 70 to 74. And then our shadows, 14, 14, and 16. So we will leave that. We'll anchor that at 14 so it stays there. So now we're at 14. So now we'll go to the red channel, and that's all neutral at the highlight value. So I'm just going to lock that down though by setting the 230. I'm setting an anchor point even though it's already where I need it to be, because when I click on the second point here and go 73 to 74, although look what it did, I already adjusted it back to 74, but just to lock it in, I'm going to set 74 on there. Okay, and then we're going to go to our shadow, and that's at 14, and we'll lock that in at 14. And for some reason, the 73 is not moving. So I'm just going to push that up a little bit. There we go, got it up to the 74. So sometimes you just got to stretch that rubber band a little bit further. Now we'll go to blue channel. And right now everything's fine in the highlights, but I'm going to lock it in. And the midtones, we're at 75. We're going to drop down to 74. Now that's all neutral, and we just have our shadow value at 16. I'm going to bring that down to 14. And there's a before and after. See how the camera white balance made it look really good. Color correcting by the numbers made it better. Does that make sense? Okay. And then if I wanted to adjust my brightness and contrast, I would actually use levels for this because I don't want to change the color correction. So this is just my own thing, my own way of doing it is if I don't want to change color, I adjust levels. So now the other thing that I'll do is I will say, all right, I want this to be at a 5% value. I'm going to change the color samplers to grayscale values. And right now I can see it's set for 10%. So I'm going to change all these to grayscale. And you can see right there, I've got a little gap before I get to my brightest highlight. So I'm just going to slide in until I get this at 5%. There it's at 5%. Now this area here I want closer to 50%. Right now it's at 71. So that's my gamma slider. I'm going to move that up a bit. And you can see it pulled my highlight out just a skosh, so I can tweak that, pull that back to the 5. And when I know that I'm moving that much and I'm pulling that, that means I've gone as far as I can go. But now my shadow is at 87%, and I want to bring it back to the 95. And so I have a full tone range on here. There's before, there's after. See how that opened up my shadows? Before, after, and yet kept my color correct. Okay. So what we did is we neutralized our colors based upon a highlight value, a midtone, and a shadow. And that's why even if I only have a 20-step gray scale image, I can use that instead. If I don't have a Macbeth color chart like this, I can use that. But we neutralize the RGB values over here. And then we adjusted the brightness and contrast with a levels by adjusting the grayscale value to know that our brightest white below paper white, below specular highlight, is a 5% grayscale value. And our darkest shadow that we want is 95%. And so that's our tone range, 5%, 95. In the middle, we know that we're able to adjust our gamma slider to get that gray card value closer to 50%. But if it's getting a little crazy, that just means that that tone range is just not going to map out quite. It's too extreme contrast for what photography can hold. In this case, I think this is looking pretty darn good. Notice how I'm keeping highlight values on the hand even, and the flower looks really good.